Welcome to the Sherborn Advisory Committee meeting. Today is Wednesday, December 10th, 2025. I hereby call the Advisory Committee meeting to order at 7:13 p.m. We were a bit delayed due to a power outage here in Sherborn. As this is a hybrid meeting, we will now conduct a roll call to confirm a quorum. I will call each member's name in turn. When your name is called, please respond by stating either present in person or present remotely along with your location. Laura?
Present here.
Just present is good.
Present.
You're remote, you have your location would be
Okay.
helpful.
Okay.
Nora?
Present here in person.
George?
Present in person.
Divya?
Present here.
Alex?
Present in person.
Penn?
Present.
And I am present as well. I don't believe Adam is online. And a quorum of members is present, so we will continue. The agenda for tonight's meeting is as follows. We are going to review the previous minutes from the October and the November meeting. We're going to have a presentation by the finance director giving us some guidance about special revenue funds, including revolving funds, and then we'll have advisory committee member reports. So, is there anybody who's able to display the minutes? Well, has everyone had a chance to read the minutes that was circulated?
Yes.
Does anybody have comments or corrections on any of those minutes?
I read and do not.
Okay.
I'd like to give you
Nice and short. Shooting for the same.
Concise.
I suppose I should now say, before we get to those minutes specifically, we read the agenda and then I'm supposed to ask, are there any items to add to the agenda that were not reasonably anticipated at least 48 hours before this meeting and that require attention before our next scheduled meeting on January 7, 2026? Hearing none, I move to adopt the agenda as read. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Penn. I don't think we have anybody online from the advisory committee, so I'll just ask all in favor of accepting the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you. So now we can jump into the corrections circulated for the prior two meetings. Hearing none, we'll get those posted up on the town website, and we'll proceed to Deb, if the show is yours.
Okay, let me see if I can share my screen here. I did send you all an email this afternoon, and I apologize that it was kind of late receiving you, getting to you, but it's there really isn't a whole lot of information that needed to be digested. I just wanted to kind of give you an overview of the accounting world a little bit. Municipal accounting is a kind of a beast all of its own. So what it is, it's called fund accounting. So everything has a separate fund. And so the general fund is more known as the operating fund. And when you review your budgets, that's basically what you're reviewing is the operating fund. The special revenue funds are a number of different funds, which in the accounting world are funds 200 through 299. And every fund has a different number. So if you look at this, you can see like the general fund is 010. And then you get down to all the different funds within 200. And they're like, you know, the cemetery, the receipts for appropriation is 200, but then insurance reimbursements are 209. The recreation revolving is 214. They all have a different fund number. So when you look at the account number, the first three numbers are the fund. And then the next three numbers are the departments. And Sherborn has about 50 different departments, and these are pretty universal among all municipalities in Massachusetts. You know, they vary a little bit, like 122, we call it the Board of Selectmen, another town might be 121, you know, it's stuff like that. But those are pretty universal, and there's a listing of all those different departments. And then when you look at the operating budgets, you're gonna see all different kinds of expense codes. And again, you know, the accounting world is kind of organized, so the 5,100 accounts are basically salaries, 5,300 are purchase of services, 5,400, 5,500 supplies, and so forth. And then the last number of our accounting code is the object code. And normally for all operations, it's 0. But like for town buildings, they have, you know, alarms for the town hall, fire department, stuff like that. So they would have, their account code would use those last 6 digits to designate what department they're referring to. So that's kind of an overview of the account numbers. So for instance, if we were to go to, I just did a couple examples just to give you an idea so that when you look at your operating budgets, you'll kind of get an idea of what you're looking at. So on these examples, like, the first one is the town administrator's salary expense. 010 is the general fund. 122 is the Board of Selectmen department. The 5110 designates a salary, and there's no objective code. The second one is like town building, town hall, electricity. Again, it's the operating fund. Town building is Department 192. Electricity is in the 5200s. And then 010001 refers to town hall. 010002 might be the library. You know what I mean? So when you look at that. And then when you get down to different special revenue accounts, it's going to begin with the number 200. So 260 is a gift account, because even within the 200 accounts, like 260 refers to gifts. 285 is a federal grant. 286 is a state grant. And then the next one is the department for 210. The expense code is 5580, and so forth and so on. And for all those accounts, the first 3 digits of the last 6 match the first. So, you know, for a gift, it's always going to be 260, and then in a numerical sequence of what gift we got. So that's basically just an overview of the accounting, if you will. Does anybody have any questions?
How many gifts?
Well, you'll see that on the next slide. So then we'll talk about basically the special accounts and the revolving funds. And again, the special accounts are accounts that the funds are collected for certain purposes and can be carried forward from year to year. For the operating fund, it's just 1 year and done. If there's money left over, it gets rolled back into like free cash. But for the special accounts, the funds can go from year to year. There's a separate account for everything. Some small items can be lumped together. Let's say gifts for the fire department. If it's a number of different residents, that can all go into gifts for the fire department. But if there's a special gift for a special item, that has to be a separate account. And the funds need to be expended for the purpose for which they were collected. And then the grants can be federal, state, local, or other. And then we have the other whole category of revolving funds. And in a revolving fund, the revenues received from the specific sources have to be spent for that activity from which the revenue was generated. And that's what makes a revolving fund. So if you're looking at like our year-to-date kind of special revenues, this is a report that each department receives at the end of the month, and it lists all the special revenue accounts that we have for each department. So the first one is a little unique in the fact that it's ARPA. So there's a number of different departments that receive ARPA, but it's all one account. And again, it's designated by the department number, so you can see what it is. But if you go down a little bit farther to
Can you
like,
pull it up on the screen?
oh, it's not there? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't share.
Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you for telling me. Now I just have to figure out how to do it. There it is. Let's see. There it is. So again, you know, as I was talking about the ARPA accounts, you can see the ARPA is all one account, but it's designated by each individual department number for their specific activity. Same thing with like surplus equipment sale. It has 3 different departments within that special revenue account, again, designated by the department number. But then as you go down farther, you can see like for Department 122, which is the Board of Selectmen, they have a number of different special accounts. The first one was for the Sherborn's 350th celebration. If you remember last year, we had a lot of money coming in and going out, and that's where all that was located. And if you can see, there's a transfer out there because that had to be completed by December 31st of this year. And there's no more activity coming. So we transferred that out, and it basically goes into the operating fund as a transfer in to the operating fund. So when we do the tax rate next year, there'll be a source of revenue of $21,000. It's not really a revenue, it's not because it's not generated, it's just a transfer. But it'll help reduce the tax rate next year for $21,000.
So it doesn't reflect what was spent or what was received for it, or?
Well, that nothing happened in FY '25.
Oh, okay.
You know, so this is our FY '26. This is FY '26.
Yep.
So this is just this year. I mean, I have last year's if you're interested in that, but this is just a snapshot for this current year. But you can see what in where it says total grant amount, what we expect the total grant to be. So for the digitization of earmark, we actually have received close to $100,000. We're still waiting on a reimbursement for $6,000. And that reimbursement should become, I just got an email yesterday that said it's on its way. So by looking at this report, I can see if it's a reimbursable grant, if we're in the negative, we need to follow up to making sure that we get the reimbursement for that. Like the Woodhaven security, we received the $25,000, we spent the $25,000. Same thing with, like on the next one on the ADA self-evaluation, it's a reimbursable account. So we spent the money last year. That's why it started with a negative $50,000. We received the money this year, so it now has a zero balance and it's done. But really the gist of it is just to let you know like how much money we receive from all these, receive and have for all these different departments, but they have to be used for specific things.
How does,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
how does the money come in? Does it come in a check or does it come in a wire?
Some of it comes in a check and some of it comes in a wire. It all goes through the collector's office. Pam and Tish are the only people who can actually receive the money as they're bonded.
So I'm slow. If just using that 350th anniversary thing,
Yeah,
if the money was given for that purpose, can you don't have to like keep it or return it or something? In other words, where you indicate the 21,000, that's going back to what, the general fund?
it's
or?
going back to the general
Yeah.
fund. Yeah.
So if it was, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like if
say somebody gave a gift and they wanted it to go to that, they had to accept it, right?
Right, but most of it, reflects the initial 10,000. I mean, there was a few gifts, but there was also ticket sales for a number of their things. There was, the town actually gave them like $10,000 from free cash for a startup.
Yeah.
There was a few gifts from like Dunkin' Donuts and things like
Yeah.
that, but a lot of it was money that they raised.
Yeah, and I apologize. I'm trying to understand this
Yeah,
stuff.
absolutely.
The 21,000 though would have been like somebody giving it donations for that purpose. 21,000.
Well,
Or no?
It happened over 2 years.
Yeah.
So you can't pinpoint exactly what the balance was.
Yeah,
But part of it was the town giving the celebration $10,000.
okay,
Or they sold tickets to an event, and the expenses weren't as much as the event, so they made the organization made a
Yeah.
profit. So they, not necessarily a gift,
yeah.
but it was a fundraising project.
So I guess if it was a grant, you wouldn't be able to do this if it
No.
was a grant.
Yeah, those are
Right.
those are things I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just asking.
Yeah,
No,
oh,
it's a
yeah,
good question.
absolutely.
The more I can understand, like in the context of a specific example.
Well, yeah, that's the whole purpose of this, is, to help you understand.
And if
But-
it was a grant, it would have been returned to the grantee?
Correct.
And then what's the DPU, Uber receipts?
That's for Uber receipts. It's from the Department of Public Utilities, and we receive a small check every year that can be used for road work. So we're kind of letting this build, and so that we can actually apply it to some construction or stuff like that.
Okay.
But we receive this is like 5 years worth. It's, we receive a
Okay.
small amount of money.
So periodically, you look at the ending balance and release it potentially to the general fund. Is there a vote by some governing body to release that, or how is that determined?
This is kind of an anomaly. It doesn't happen, but I think this is twice since I've been here
Yeah.
that we've released money. And it's
Okay.
for things like that where there's a termination date. And by law, it can no longer be in effect because it's 1 year after the end of the celebration. And I just confirmed with the committee that there were no more expenses coming or anything else like that. And then it just reverts to the town.
With that Western Ave, remember there was money there that had to be used to traffic softening or traffic?
Yeah, that a desk, well,
Traffic calming.
yeah, that's Odessa. That used to be, when Odessa used to give us money, it used to go into the general revenue account. And I think, was it 2 years ago that we voted to make it a special revenue? So if you look at, let's see, where is it? I believe it's under planning. If you see under 175, it says Planning Board Road Safety.
There it is. Okay.
That's the money there.
Okay, thank you.
So, I guess, I don't want to get too much into specifics about each individual account, but I just want you to know that this money is out here. We do keep an eye on it. We know what to expect, and that that it's accounted for. Like, that everything there's a purpose for everything, and based on the accounts, we know what it should be used for. So at the end of every month, like I said, every department head gets this report. And I always say, please review, let me know what's going on. A couple of them you can see, like gifts for the DARE program in the police department. It's been $717 since July. So that's like, I reach out to the chief and I say, when are you going to use this? He let me know that they're in process. It'll be spent within the next 2 months. But we do keep an eye on what's out there and what's not out there.
I think that helps me understand too, like that when it has balance, that doesn't mean you automatically, that's going to the general fund.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
very little, none of this really, none of this goes to the general
Yeah.
fund, basically.
Yeah.
It's used for that specific purpose for which we received it.
Yeah, that's helpful, thanks.
So these would be special revenue funds?
Correct.
Okay.
And then yes. And I think there's another, this is the same information, only in a different, and sorted differently. And I know Stephen thought that you might find this helpful, so you can see this is the amount of money. The first category is federal grants. So far this year, the school really hasn't, maybe if I look at last year's, it will be a little bit more helpful. So last year, the school received $208,000 worth of federal grants. And they spent that plus a little bit left to only end up with a balance of $1,700. The Council on Aging, they receive a federal grant. So our total federal grants were $468,000 to begin with. Then we received 262, spent 438. And then we have state grants, and you can see the state grants for last year. We received $2 million, of which, a big part of it was that $500,000 for the road work. And let's see where the big tickets are. That CCI, the police had that big program where they had a couple officers that were helping with all mental health and things like that, that we employed them, and that program has come to an end. So those were some of the big ticket items for the state grants. And then we also...
Deb, from a logistics perspective, I have two questions.
Okay.
So there are folk out in the world of Sherborn who are making grant requests. And when do you get alerted that a grant has either been submitted, approved, that you should be expecting money? How do you control that process?
I normally don't know when they've submitted, but when they're approved, the department heads are supposed to be giving me the document that says how much money they're going to receive, how they're going to spend it, if it's a reimbursable account, or if the money's going to be coming in. Some of them come in at $50,000 up front, and then so the department heads are responsible for supplying me with the information.
Okay. So now you go along and in the school in particular, perhaps, there's payroll that's being paid and subsidized by the grant. How do you know which payroll to charge to the grant?
The school does that for us. When the school submits their payroll, they break it down to which what employees are being paid by which grant. Okay.
And, they may get a check for $100, 75 is regular payroll and 25 is grant work. And they break it down to that.
They do, yeah. They send us a file that has the breakdown and everything else like that. And when we process payroll, that we just code it to those accounts.
And that would hold true for any expense that somebody's signing off on an invoice. They're telling you how to allocate that in your general ledger.
Correct.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's a question. Do we get many reimbursable grants or reimbursement grants, and how do you deal with those?
Yeah, we get several.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's really up to the department head to make sure that they know what their spending is. Like say, if I just look at this one where the water quality infrastructure, we got a $50,000 reimbursable grant. So we had to spend the $50,000. Once we spend it, the department head knows that they've submitted the invoice. They let us know we need a copy of the canceled check. So we send them a copy of the canceled check. They have to send in the submission, and then we receive the reimbursement after that. So yeah, it's a little bit of a process, especially for some of the departments that have like the digitization earmark has been ongoing for a couple of years, and it's like you have to file every quarter. So gather the invoices that you paid and blah 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 and stuff like that. But
Been there, done that.
yeah,
So
yeah.
why I asked.
But yeah, so that's kind of an overview of all the different kind of special revenue accounts we have, and then then you can see these are all our revolving funds. Revolving funds are special funds as well, but they're kind of segregated within the revolving funds. This list right here looks like a lot because a number of them are the school, and the school kind of keeps track of their own revolving funds. But the other ones that you see are like the Parks and Recs, ambulance, elder housing, farm pond, Board of Health clinic, Council on Aging has a number of them, sale of firewood, and the sale of surplus equipment. So we kind of, well, before I move on to the next spreadsheet, does anybody have any questions about this? The next one lists the revolving funds a little bit.
Elder housing.
Pardon?
What is elder housing?
Oh, Woodhaven, the senior living. Yeah,
So if you go down to receipts for the aggregate for June 30, 25, that was about 2 point something million.
yeah,
And of that, revolving funds was 2. So if you go to the very bottom of this spreadsheet. So, I'm sorry, so it was 4.8,
yeah,
of which about 2 was revolving fund revenue.
correct.
So we got, in fiscal 25, we received close to $2.5 million from federal, state resources.
Correct.
Okay. And we don't budget for that. That's different than the expenditures we're looking at for the general fund.
Correct, correct.
Okay.
I will say that this year, Jeremy and Diane and I are actually making a concentrated effort when we're going to meet with the department heads to review these special revenue accounts to see if there's any way some of this money could be used to reduce their operating account. We do have a grant coming for guardrails, but I don't know if that's above and beyond what the operating budget is, or if it's, if it's already accounted for somewhere else. So, but those are the kind of things that we're going to look for this year that we haven't done in the past.
Do grants tend to be more for operating or more for capital? I just thought maybe more for capital.
Well, more for capital. I mean, it really varies. Some of them, like, let me see if I can think of a different example. When I think of the police, most of them are for like body cams and security and stuff like that. For the fire, they get what they call safe grants, which are more programs, for elders and stuff like that. So some of it is programs and some of it is capital.
So we've gotten a fair amount for roadway work
Yes.
and the PFAS work.
Mhm.
There's been, and we'll see that in the warrant. We began to do it last year where if the town's portion is 500, we may be getting grants for another 250 or 300,000 for a roadway.
Mhm.
So we're really investing 800 in roadway, some paid by the taxpayers and some paid by the state.
That's correct.
Hopefully, all by the.
All by the taxpayer, right? But
Mhm.
which taxpayer?
Is this exact? what you
This is
said?
the exact
Okay.
same thing, yeah. Like I said, I didn't really want to get into like a lot of numbers
Yeah, yeah.
tonight, but I thought that you might find it interesting.
Yeah.
If you're a nerd like me, I find it interesting to take a look at it. But, so that's
It's
that.
helpful to walk, well, at least for me, it's helpful to walk through it because I did look at what you said. My eyes.
It was all Greek, right? Yeah, so, but then when we go to revolving, see if I can almost share.
Now, the revolving funds, there is an article to put a cap on the spending a revolving fund can incur during the course of the fiscal year. So although the fees are coming into the revolving fund, town meeting does vote on a maximum expenditure from that revolving fund. I think there are 8 of those.
Yes. So, let's, for instance, on, I guess Farm Pond would be a good one to look at. So this is the history of the Farm Pond revolving fund for the last 5 years, or 4 years plus year-to-date so far this year. And it's a little unusual because of the timing of their revenue isn't on the fiscal basis. It's because it's in the summertime. But at the end, you can see that one line says ATM revolving fund spending limit. That's what's in the warrant article.
Okay, can you tell me why was that change made? To have the cap on what can be spent from the revolving fund? There must have been a reason.
That's all, that's as long as I can, that's
Oh.
part of the UMass.
Oh, I thought you said it was a new thing that they were.
No, I'm saying that
Just-
there are 8 of these revolving funds where the town meeting actually votes on a cap for how much they can spend out of that revolving fund.
But you're saying that we've always done that.
We've always had to vote for a limit. That's part
Okay,
of the
that's
state law.
Okay,
But here's a good example, like under recreation, for a number of years, the spending limit was at 250,000, and that it was just kind of wrote, that's what it went through. But last year, advisory decided to reduce that to make it $150,000.
Can I interject on that though? But because several years ago, the operating was only 15,000. And then it was voted in 2022 to make operating but they raised it to 150, so by 135,000. So then operating money was put in there. So we'll talk about that later, but I just
Yeah.
want people to know that,
There was a reason for
Right,
it. But what
right.
I'm saying is it does change.
Right.
You know what I mean? The number of the spending limit can change. And when you go through the article, this is a good piece of information to look at to see
Right.
what the history of the spending has been. And, here's a prime example. So like for the Board of Health, they have an immunization clinic that we actually haven't used for 3 years, but it still says we can spend, the limit is $20,000. It's easy just to keep it the same. We're never going to spend that, but this might be a year that you're looking like, we don't even have $20,000 to spend. So maybe this is the year to reduce that. I guess, so the point is, that's one of the decisions you folks have to make. Anybody, any questions?
What does Board of Health get for revenue? Is it like for like application fees?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they do. And like food inspections and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But not going into the revolving fund, that's.
It does not, that goes into the general operating fund.
Oh,
Yeah.
So we don't know what those fees were from back in fiscal '22.
Well, these weren't fees, this is I think this was mostly from the state to have these. I don't think
Okay.
it was a fee.
Okay,
yeah, that's kind of what I was asking
Yeah.
is what the up there, the revenue.
Yeah, I would have to-
Not then application inspection fees.
No, that's not what this is.
yeah, that's in the general fund.
That's in the general fund revenue.
What do they call those? Local receipts of those?
Correct.
That's the label for it.
another tax.
The user fees.
So, anyway, so that is revolving funds. And then the next account, the next fund we can talk about is the capital articles account.
Oh, and I kind of, if I paid attention to what you put up there, that it says what that specific revolving fund
Yeah,
is.
and
Which I should.
I was gonna say,
That would have answered my question.
I like to use the tabs on the bottom, so when
Yeah.
you get my spreadsheet, you'll see like what each individual tab is for. Okay. So here, again, this is like a spreadsheet I send to, oops, I'm not sharing again. So this is a spreadsheet that I send to all the department heads, again, at the end of the month, so they know where they stand on their capital spending. And if you look at, again, the numbers all mean something. So when you look at the Vadar account, it will say 020, which refers to free cash. So when you had your warrant article, that was a free cash number. And the minute town meeting is over, that it becomes eligible for spending. So they don't have to wait to the start of the new year. But if it's an article that, it's a project that you bonded, it has to start, it can't start before July the 1st, the new fiscal year. So that's why you see like for, let's see, here's, for the second one, for the town hall meeting room furnishings. You can see that it was a free cash article, but we could start spending in FY25 because we just voted it. But, we ended up not spending until FY26. Oops. Oh, I left the meeting, darn it. How did that happen? So
You're still there.
I'm still sharing, oh, good. Nope, it's gone
That's
now.
us.
I think I have to go back and get into the meeting. Sorry about that.
While we're doing that, Stephen, did we need to vote on the minutes? To vote to accept on the minutes?
Oh, I think we passed by that. Thank you. We'll come back to it.
Okay.
I think you did come out. You have to log back in.
Do you need the meeting number, Deb?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to get to. I was just gonna go to the town website.
Do you want to go to Zoom and I can give you the meeting number?
Yeah, sure.
It's 87,
Hold on,
tell me
I
when you're
have to
ready.
get to Zoom screen here. I think it's gonna be easier if I go down.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah, sorry.
That's all right.
I have it here if you want me to share.
Oh, you have all my spreadsheets?
Yes,
Oh, good.
it's helpful. I may be
Yeah.
presenter.
Oh, it looks like I'm not connected to the internet, so something went
Do we all
awry.
die?
So
No,
if
we're
you can
still here.
share, that'd be great, Paul.
Okay, yeah.
Hmm?
So do we lose power?
I don't think so. I
No,
I
we're
don't
still
know.
alive. We're still good.
It could be me.
Apparently the power's still out.
It is.
Did anybody else lose power?
I did.
You did?
Yeah, must have.
I was trying to leave and then I couldn't find anything, like my purse.
But now, is
Oh, no,
it-
we're fine now,
You're
right?
fine now? It's
We
just
all have
me?
Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we still don't power, it's the
Yeah.
generator.
No, I know, but trying to.
Yeah, I don't know
Wanna
why
be a
I'm
co-host?
completely out of.
Yeah.
But there's no power in the rest of town, is what you're saying, right?
Mhm. Well, generator.
Yeah, we have a generator.
Okay, I'm,
Yeah, so does one.
gosh, I hope it comes on again soon.
Do they have, got the blocking thing so they can block their legs? You
Oh.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
can see my feet here.
There we go.
Yeah.
Get close. Which spreadsheet did you want?
Capital articles.
You know, I never thought they were gonna do that. I have the hooks there.
Deb, what's the difference between capital projects that are coded 020 and 400?
020 is free cash.
Okay,
That was paid for by free cash.
okay.
And, as you look on this spreadsheet, you'll also be able to see what the funding status is. I know this comes up quite a bit as like, have we already borrowed the money or not borrowed the money? So you can see like, when the spreadsheet comes up, like some of them will say GOB, which is the bond that we got in August of 2024. Or if it says TBB, that means to be borrowed, that it's been authorized, but we haven't borrowed the money just yet.
Not letting you.
And then on a few,
Can you share? Are you a co-host?
yeah,
No,
don't know why
I don't think
this
I'm
is
not a
working for
co-host,
me.
so. I have things open on my screen, so I'm a
Oh.
little bit nervous.
Okay.
Is Paul sharing or no? Can you not share?
Not being able to do it.
Okay, let me just close out something here.
I'll take you
I
off.
find that.
No, I can do it. I can share my desktop, I guess. Let me just shut down. You know what I mean? Things will pop up, but
You can just share that tab too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, there we go.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, okay. It's just what I'm going on. Okay.
Yeah, so I apologize. I don't know what
Let me
happened to me
cancel
over
so
here.
that I'm not sharing now.
Um,
Okay.
But anyway, so yeah, see that second line over there where it says funding status. That will say FC means free cash. The TBB means to be borrowed. A ban is like, before we get a bond, sometimes we'll get a ban. If we don't have enough money to go for a bond, we'll go for a ban. Like, so it's a borrowing anticipation note. So sometimes we do that. We don't currently have any of those projects available. But again, you can see like this is the balance that we started the year at. This is what the bond was. We got the bond for the articles that we passed for an ATM 25 was $2,855,150. And then so far this year, we spent $1,561,000. This is our current balance. And again,
So I
each,
wondered that if you could walk us through one of them. For example, the fire department ambulance, right?
Yes.
That was bonded, right? Can you just walk us through that? That was,
that the $100,000, well, the $100,000 was, remember at town meeting, there was a vote to take money from the historical display
Okay.
that went down to the ambulance. So that's where we got the $100,000 in FY '25. And then we borrowed $415,000.
So bond art, so this bond article column is things we borrowed. That's what it is.
So the 100,000 was the amount transferred and the 400,000 was bonded?
Correct.
But an ambulance costs $1.4 million?
$515,000.
So we borrowed the money even though we're not going to take delivery of it for 2 years? Or we should, has that actually been borrowed?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. I think I might have the wrong, I'm pretty sure Pam hasn't borrowed that yet, so
Yeah.
it might be, the
It's
funding
to
status
be
might be
bonded.
off.
Yeah. All right, but we get the idea.
Yeah, but that's the idea, so I do make mistakes. So anyway, so I think I might have the wrong, because I don't think that they have borrowed that yet, but that's the purpose of that line.
So if the roadway was, let's say, 850, and we bonded 500 of it and got a grant for 350, or got state funds for 350, how does that get accounted for on this spreadsheet? Is it just the
Just the bonded amount.
not the
And
total project amount?
Not the total project. The grant part is taken care of over on the grant accounts. And then at the end of the year, when the auditors come, we make a list of all our capital items, so that it would be combined then for the auditors.
Just out of curiosity, that historical item display,
Yes,
600,000, that was, is that, am I reading it right? Bond action, 600,000?
yes,
So the town approved that?
Deb,
yes.
I had a quick question. Maybe you can help answer because it came up last night.
Figures I can-
So for the tennis,
History of that.
for the tennis courts, the town approved 623, but then 565 was taken out. Can you explain that?
565.
So Pam said 565 was, I'm saying taken out September 2025, but the town approves 623, and there was something with the numbers.
The premiums, she gets
Yeah,
the
the premiums. Could you
yeah.
explain that? Any chance? It's
Pam
hard
would be,
to.
I don't want to misquote myself, so Pam would be better to explain that. But the total amount that we requested was $623,000, so that's what's reflected here. And then we have a premium account that offsets that. So that's where she accounts for that money downstairs.
All right, I guess I just don't understand it still, but that's
Yeah,
okay. 'Cause
I
we
don't want
paid
to
like,
misquote myself because Pam understands it better.
and then the interest payments, that was like 13,000 so far in interest payments on that.
That shows up in the operating fund. That doesn't show up as a capital article. It's not an expense for the capital article. That's money that comes out of your operating
I just
fund
wanna-
when you do debt service.
Okay, thank you.
So just to bring
The
that
premium.
one in particular forward a little bit, so the town was anticipating the project to be 625. The final bid was, I don't know, about 100, 150 less. So
It's 458, but that doesn't include, then there's another 12,500 for something else, and we don't know what other things are going to necessarily come up.
So let's say there's an extra 100. What happens then? That gets reappropriated at the
Town meeting has to vote to reappropriate it or close it, one of the two.
What would closing it mean?
I guess that we would pay the money back. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay,
More than likely you would reappropriate it because you already have the money.
right.
Same thing with that Jameson Field that hasn't been, that the money's been taken out, but since
But
May.
it's a town meeting vote. It's
That's
not
a
like
meeting
you
vote.
can't just say, oh, I'm going to spend it here
No,
instead
you
of
have to
there.
reappropriate it,
Yes.
or whatever.
Yeah. So
And
there,
putting the balance back is sort of like analogous to like just, if you have a loan for 500,000 and you don't need, you pay extra back toward the loan, is that how it works?
yeah, the only thing is that these are different because they're, what was the term that Pam used? They're uncallable, I believe, that we cannot pay in advance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
it's sort of what you were asking, but I guess I still am
Mhm.
unclear what the answer is to it, is it gets reappropriated then
Yeah.
as a practical matter,
Yeah,
which is probably unfortunate, right? Or no?
Well, the bond probably doesn't allow for prepayment.
Yeah, no, I understand, but it's probably not the greatest thing that you borrow really for no reason, because then you put it in.
yeah, and I think, it was discussed at capital budget, that's the hard part about the way we do capital budget, because you're getting a best estimate, but you can't get a 100% accurate estimate without spending money to get the estimate, but you don't have the money to spend to pay somebody to get the estimate, so it's kind of
It's a high quality problem if you're spending less, right? That's the kind of problem you want.
No, I know, I'm just saying, if you don't have to borrow that amount.
Yeah.
And have money to sit there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, all right.
Another problem is, nature of ore is a vacuum, that money's gonna get spent.
If it's reappropriated appropriately, but
But you might have
Yeah.
to wait a while before it gets reappropriated, too.
Yeah.
And it's just
Almost a
sitting
year.
there.
At least to the next town meeting.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
right.
fortunately, right now, a lot of the money we borrowed, we're making as much interest as our interest rate. So we're not
Back then.
really, it's really not an
Yeah,
expense to the
that's a good
town, this, in our current state.
Yes.
So, anyway, and so there are a few free cash articles that sunset. So in the very last column, you'll see a date that says sunset. And that means if they haven't spent that money, because there are free cash articles, they will go back into free cash. That money, they're no longer, the department can no longer spend that money.
Does that happen very often?
You know what? It happened once since I've been, in this role. And then I think then there was a few years where we didn't sunset. And I think we started adding that to the articles again, because you can see most of these are 2027 that they're going to sunset. So we have a little bit of time. Are there any other questions about the capital articles? Paul, do you mind sharing the screen that says trust and endowment funds?
It didn't switch on the screen.
All special revenue accounts, right? Not revolving.
Those are not revolving. These are no longer special revenue accounts. These were capital article
Okay,
accounts.
so that's separate from.
That's separate. That's a whole different fund. It's Fund 400. The special revenue accounts are in the 200s.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha, okay.
I think he has the one that you're looking for, Deb.
Oh, there it is. So, yeah, so these are basically our trust funds, which, are basically our savings accounts, if you will. And they all have a specific purpose. And you can only take money out of them by town meeting vote. Well, if it's a stabilization account or a trust account. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, oh, well, you're going to say, why can you take it out of the elder and disabled tax aid? That's it's an account where people donate money to help pay elder or disabled with their tax bills.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always one expenditure out of there every year. But the rest of the accounts, you can see like what you voted at town meeting, like $100,000 to go into the stabilization account, or and $159,500 to go into the capital stabilization account, $200,000 to go into the OPEB account. And so that's how the balances keep growing in addition to the earnings. Yeah, fine.
The last one, the library, is that separate from the library trust, the trust funds that the library trustees control?
The library, they have endowment funds,
Mhm.
and there are only 3 of the accounts that are held in the, by the treasurer.
Mhm.
And that's the total of the 3 accounts that are held by, that are, Pam is authorized to hold. The rest of them are held by the library trustees. So Paul, if you go to the page that says library.
Before we just
Okay.
jump off of that,
Sure.
just by way of background, fair amount of money there. The treasurer uses a third-party investment advisor called Bartholomew and Company, and they manage probably 80 or 90% of that money. And the Capital Stabilization Fund is managed by something called the Massachusetts Municipal Depository Trust. The remainder of those funds are managed by Bartholomew and Company. They have a kind of a lock in municipalities of Massachusetts for asset management. For whatever reason.
Is that mandated by anyone, that law, or is that just?
No.
Practice?
It's just common practice.
How do they get paid? Is that somewhere, how do they get paid?
They get paid from the fund. They charge probably 45 basis points in the fund. And then the funds, the mutual funds and other assets they're investing in also charge a fee. So it's under the current arrangement, in my opinion, it's somewhat expensive. But we're going to continue to discuss that.
I have a question, Deb.
Mm-hmm.
What's the process for saying that we have enough money in the savings account? Kind of an analogy, right? We have savings account for kids to go to college, and you keep looking at it and say, okay, do we have enough? Do we have enough?
Mm-hmm.
So we have all these savings accounts, right? So what's the process for saying, are we happy or sad, and do we have to keep allocating more receipts into that account?
Well, there's a few accounts where we have some guidelines. So like for the second one down, the stabilization fund, if you looked at the policies that Stephen sent out earlier, our town policy is to keep 3% of the budget. That would be our goal there. So for years, we kept adding 50,000, 50,000, 50,000. So at the end of fiscal year 25, we hit it. We're now at 3.23%. So I guess, it's a decision you as advisory will need to make, is like,
Over here, right?
is that enough? I mean, that's what our policy is, but that policy was made a few years back. Is that truly enough?
It sounds like some of these doesn't have a target percentage, and then that's a nice way of knowing that we're above our target. Good. What about the other?
Well, the perpetual care, that's based, the cemetery gets to decide what, that actually they have an expendable account and a non-expendable account. Their non-expendable account, there's a certain percentage of when they sell a burial plot that goes into non-expendable, and that goes into expendable. They could spend the expendable portion to renovate the cemetery. The non-expendable is for perpetual care forever and ever and ever, so that the cemetery never goes into disrepair. The sped stabilization. Sometimes if the school has money, that they might vote to put money in there. We haven't seen any money go in there for a while, but if you remember a couple of years ago, they had they were going to be way over budget because they had a couple students that required a lot of funding. So they took money out of their sped stabilization account.
How about the OPEB one? That's a big one. We put 200,000 in.
Yeah, we're really far away from funding OPEB. OPEB is other post-benefit employed, other.
Post-employment.
Yeah, post-employment, that's what it benefits. And it's going to be 2048 before we're fully funded. At this point in time, I think this represents about 35% of funding.
Okay. Even at the $3.6 million.
Yes.
So as an example, we get a biannual report.
Yes,
Every other
biannual.
year, a third-party firm does evaluation. And at June 30, 24, the gross liability was about 8.7 million. And at that time, we had about 3.6 in the trust fund. So based upon contributing 200,000 annually, they're projecting by 2048 that it'll be fully funded. There's no mandate to fully fund that by the state. There is a mandate to fully fund the pension plans by 2040. Those assets are not on our books. That's a fund managed by the Commonwealth of Mass, and we're told an annual contribution to put into the fund so that it will be fully funded by 2040.
So like when you look at the operating fund, that mandate is in like Department 910, and it's the Middlesex County Retirement Fund. And you know that it's a very large amount that we have to put in there.
Want to go to anyone else here that?
Maybe just over to that library summary. And that's what kind of what you were talking about. These funds are not held by the town. They're held by the library trustees. They use the town's federal ID number, so that's why we have them on our general ledger account.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have any control over what is done with them. That's the library trustees who get to decide what to do with those. Except for those 3 small little accounts at the bottom for $118,000.
It's a lot of money. I want to make sure it had dwindled to 118,000.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right, yeah, no. They have quite a bit of money there, so. Anyway, those are basically all of our funds. And I don't know if you have any more questions or comments or
How many again did you say there are? 50 some odd?
50 departments.
Okay. 50.
But, oh yeah, we have, you know, a lot of different funds.
You know, Dan, I never thought your job was easy, but I was kind of fooled because you make it look easy.
I don't know about that, but,
What are the hard things to keep track of?
well, I mean, there's a lot of requirements during the course of the year. You know what I mean? So actually today we just received notice that our tax rate is set. So we spent some time in the past month setting our tax rate, and it's going to be $15.66, which is the lowest tax rate we've seen for a while. But as you all know, it doesn't really matter because your property values went up. So your tax bill is going to be the same, but your tax rate went down. So we do the tax rate, then we have to, reporting requirements. We do what they call a Schedule A, which balances all these funds together, a balance sheet that's due, periodically division of revenue reports that we have to do. And then in addition to doing the operating budgets, there's just a lot of, every month is a little bit different, what the requirements are.
And you have to share a lot of information with the state?
No, I think she
Yes.
Just remember, it's great, you have assessment and you have the tax rate, but it all really is coming from what we're spending.
That's correct.
So it's really the spending
The budget is.
that determines.
The operating budget really drives what your tax rate and what your tax bill is going to be.
Right, because you have to get to that number.
The spending, it's all about the spending, right?
Mhm.
Just,
So you set the tax rate once you know what the valuations are?
Yeah.
All right.
It's division
Mhm.
I got it.
back into the rate. So the only additional piece I would note here, somewhat related, is the debt. So June 30th, 25, the long-term debt, bonds, not all debt, but bonds, was about 13.5 million. The town issued 2.7 million of debt in September 25. And will pay down principal of about $1,440,000 during fiscal 26. So the projected balance of June 30th, 26 is 14,800,000. And the state does have, and we'll take a look at it, various ratios about whether that's a reasonable debt structure or not. We can look at the comparable cities and towns as to what that is per capita, percentage of valuation, percentage of the annual budget. So we'll just be sure that we're within the guardrails of what makes sense on debt. And the other thing that Deb and I began to think about today with respect to capital spend is, from what I've read, the best guidance for what should be a percentage of debt in the budget is about 5.5% to 6%, probably about 5.5%, and that's what historically the town has been at. So we can kind of back into how much debt is going to be paid off by June 30 and what we can take on in the next fiscal year for debt, assuming rates and term, what we can take on, as I say, how much would be allocable from free cash, how much would be raised in debt, and debt can either be excluded debt or non-excluded debt. Excluded debt meaning it's kind of a Prop 2.5 override because it adds to your base. So that's part of the computation as well. So, and there's an ordering of how free cash gets applied. Free cash is essentially accumulated earnings that you can then allocate to certain things, excluding the operating budget. You don't want to use free cash to fund operations, but you can use it for capital stabilization, and perhaps some extraordinary item that occurs in the current year, I think you can use it for as well. And there's a target that we want to be at for free cash of a minimum of 3% with a maximum of 5% of the annual budget. So we do have some guardrails in that we have to work within, which I think are very helpful. So is that the kind of the purpose of Deb's presentation is there are things going on outside of what we're looking at for expenditures for fiscal 27. So I just want to give folk a reference point as to what those other things are. And we don't know yet what pressures the Commonwealth has and whether or not we'll get the same level of funding in fiscal 27 as we have historically received. And if those activities that it funds, the departments want to continue, that puts a little burden on the annual expenditures. So that's part of the conversation that Deb and Jeremy will be having with those departments as well.
When will we find out more about that, the status of that? When do we expect to?
What, the target date is December the 31st.
Okay.
That we'll have a roll-up. Like I said, we're just starting, tomorrow will be our first day of going with the, all the departments have submitted their budget, but they haven't. Then Jeremy, Diane, and I will sit down with the department heads and review them just to see if there's, if they're reasonable, if there's any adjustments that can be made and stuff like that. And then we'll all kind of come together for the preliminary look at the end of the month. Yeah, I mean, it's hard. We're only 6 months into the new year, and then you're already thinking of the following year. So, we do incorporate, actual spending to date, but sometimes,
You only know what you
a
know.
lot of guesstimates going on. Yeah.
You've been thrown a lot of information. It takes time to absorb it.
Yeah. If you have any questions, give me a call.
Thank you.
Yeah. Shoot me an email, whatever works for you.
Any other questions for Deb on this?
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for suggesting this and reading this. It was extremely.
Yeah, that's was
Good,
really helpful.
A lot of new folk on the committee, and even for those who are veterans, it's always a good reminder.
I will say municipal accounting is like no other. Yeah, it's really it's very different.
Well, if anybody wants to read about it, there's a manual, right? The Uniform Massachusetts Accounting System.
Yes, there is.
Yep, insomnia or something, you can
Yes.
pick up that guy.
Exactly.
Do you have to get like a accreditation or something like that?
There
to
is
do
a
it?
certification you can get. Yeah.
Okay.
No
All right.
updated software that you need?
No.
It's all good. Excel's.
Well, I mean, we use Vadar as our accounting
That's a
software
Vadar
program.
one, yeah.
We started using that in 2017. There's not a whole lot of choice when it comes to municipal software. Munis is the biggest one, but it's very expensive.
Mhm.
It's really more for bigger towns and Vadar, and then there's a few other software programs, like we used to use SoftWrite and, prior to Vadar, but they're far and few between.
And the carrying costs, that's all in here too, or was that something from Pam's office?
The what
For
cost?
the interest and carrying costs and, what the interest payments are and things like that? That's
Well,
all in
she
this?
has a schedule of what the interest payments are, but it's part of your operating budget.
It's all,
Like
Go back
if you
and
look
look.
at the Department 710,
mhm.
that's where you'll see debt expense.
Okay, debt.
And the debt
service.
expense
Mhm.
it breaks down between interest and principal payments within
And
that
that's in
department.
this section, this in here that you gave us, or no?
No, that's part of your operating budget. So like
All
when
right,
it's in the funds 1010, so when you review it with the department head, you'll see that then.
okay. Thank you.
All right, I think we can move on. And then, I just want to go back. Did we actually take a formal vote on accepting the minutes?
No.
I don't think so.
Move to
Okay.
approve.
I moved on too quickly, so do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second? Since we're all physically here, we can just say aye. All those in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Sorry about the missing that. All right, so we can go on to advisory committee member reports, if there are any. We can go in clockwise. Alex, anything?
No.
Ken?
Yes, I have two. So Adam, me and I met with Zach Ward, the fire chief. He did not present his budget to us, but he did speak briefly about some of the capital items, just describing some of the capital requests he's going to have and telling us what they were going to be. And they seemed fairly modest. But it was mostly an extended tour of both stations and the equipment, which was pretty interesting, but it was like, so. And then Adam and I met with Chief Galvin, and he does have his budget, at least. I don't think he's finalized it, but I think it's pretty close. And in terms of total salaries are up 5.25% for over 2026. They had some of that was the contract in people who are in contract. They just finalized the police union deal, and that included 2% COLA, and it also included there's a I don't know if you describe it as a mandate or not, but there's something like police. If I remember the acronym POST, I think it's Police Officer Systems and Training, and it's new standards or standards and training. It was new standards that the officers have to meet, and that requires a little bit of extra effort on the part of the individual officers. So for year 1 and year 2 of the 3-year the new 3-year contract, they will get, I think it's either 1.5% or 1.2%, and there's no bump for that in the 3rd year. Anyway.
Of their salary, the
Yeah.
raise of 1.5 to 2%, okay.
Or sort of like a bonus
Bonus.
rather than a raise, because
Oh, okay.
it's 2 years and not the 3rd year. The anticipated cost to them is kind of spread out over that part. So again, salaries up 5.2%. Expenses are up 5.85%, but it's a much smaller amount of money. It's about $9,000, and the aggregate, the average of the total department expenses are up 5.29%.
Thank you.
And there was one capital item capital request they're making is for a new police cruiser. And that will come in, the price they've gotten for that complete, so to purchase the vehicle and outfitting as a police car, is $81,797.75.
Thank you. Any questions for Pam? Paul?
Sure. So I have a number of advisory reports, like, to go it down so that it makes it easy for me.
No.
This one, right? And I'll forward these to you, or if you take any more.
Okay, thank you.
So, on the school, regional school committee, right, so this is the middle school and high school, right?
Wait, did you read to us?
So, at their meeting, last week, they presented their version 1 of their operating budget. And the overall budget for all schools is $30.5 million, which is a 5% increase over last year. Right, and this is the breakdown of it. So, and salaries is a big part of it, and it's an estimate that's pending them finishing the collective bargaining, the CBA negotiations, which won't be finished for another few months. And benefits are an increase of 6.8%. Then, so that's the overall regional budget. But then as part of that, there's an assessment for Sherborn and an assessment for Dover. So Sherborn's assessment is $12.5 million, which is an increase of $733K, or just over 6%. So that's kind of where the regional budget is. Again, that's for middle school and high school. I can take questions as I go on. The Sherborn School Committee meeting was last night. And first, there was an update on the current year budget. So out-of-district placements, right, so these are for special ed students that are placed outside of our schools. I guess they had budgeted for 13 and they had 14. So because of that, they're over budget by about 300K, 200K for tuition and 100K for transportation, right? And then they also gave an update on the capital project, which is good news. The HVAC is finished in the library and the CAF, and the auditorium unit is scheduled to be completed by the beginning of next week. So they're kind of finishing up on all their HVAC capital projects, so that sounds good. And going back to the operational budget for the Sherborn School, this is the Pine Hill School. In district was an operating budget of $7.5 million, which was $322,000 above last year of 4.4%. That's one component of it. The other component is the out of district, right? Which there's a change in accounting rules, right? So Dawn said that she'd reach out to Jeremy and you to kind of walk you through that, right? But they estimate that to be an increase of about $431K, or about 38%. And that's net of the funding we get from the state for circuit breaker. So after digesting all that, what I did was I did my best effort to pull together what the total school budgets look like. This is the overall summary, right? So I kind of pulled together what the region is. So this is just the Sherborn part of it. So it was $12.5 million. This was last year, so that's an increase of $733K. So I pulled together the region in district, and then the out of district as best I could tell, right? And two other components of the schools are Tri-County and Norfolk, and I haven't seen numbers for that yet, so I just used last year's number. So summing all that up, the net is that the overall school budget is $21.9 million, which is about $1.5 million over last year, or 7% increase. Right? I can send this to you, Deb. I have a spreadsheet. Check my math, but this is the best I could.
Yeah.
This is my best effort, right? So that's kind of the summary of where the schools are. Then the other part from an update is Nora and I are both liaisons for a number of others. So we met with the recreation on December 2nd, and they didn't get around to presenting the operating budget.
I can cover some of it from last night from capital budget.
Okay.
So,
and then the Council on Aging, Nora and I are planning to meet with them next Monday, and the library trustees have their meeting to go over the budget next week. Laura and I are invited by Liz to go to that as well. So those are kind of that's the update.
Thank you, Paul. That's incredible. Thank you.
Excuse me, before we move to the schools, I just have a quick question. Would you may not want to hazard a guess, but would you think that Tri-County, Norfolk, Aggie are going to be up a similar amount to ours, the other two schools?
I'm not familiar with those, right? So I don't know.
Normally, I'll make a phone call and see how many students are going to go. So if we have any new students, or if a student's graduated, it's really driven by the number of students that go there from the town of Sherborn. I will say Tri-County is probably going to go up because they have a new they're building that new school, and they have a capital piece in addition to the tuition piece, and the capital piece is going to go up.
Do we typically have people going to Norfolk?
Yeah, we currently have 3.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I thank you, Paul, for attending those meetings. The only times, because a lot of these are coinciding with capital budget meetings. So matter of fact, I'll talk to you about next week with capital budget for next Thursday. So I'll just talk about capital budget. Laura and I were there. Laura's the alternate last night at 7:00, and the police presented their capital items for, as Penn just mentioned, about approximately 80,000. He is going to come back with a more specific quote, I think, on that, because it's the car and it's a regular gas car, and this is in the way the capital budget is for the police is it's like 2-1. So 1 year they're replacing 1, the next year is most likely 2 coming on and coming off. They've had good success with the all-electric vehicle. He's going to calculate, if their savings any gas. They charge up over here. He's talking about different vehicles charging here and trying to separate it out in front of Town Hall, but we talked a little bit about that. We deferred on the fire and rescue because Chief Ward was not there. And then we spoke about the rec. And we still have that 2024, 100,000 on 2004, kind of that's in a holding pattern still. And then they were talking about, so now, actually I'm still talking about capital budget. So that he's come up with another 100,000 to then redo all of Jameson. So there's like a complex of Jameson 4 to make it 3 fields. And so we're waiting for more specifics on just another 100,000. We talked also about that whole piece about reappropriation. If that has to be because the town voted on Jameson 4. So if that's not being used specifically for Jameson 4, it depends how the warrant article was written.
Yeah, you have to really go back and look at the article to see how it was written.
To see how that was written. Unfortunately, that was taken out. We just kind of went over. Granted, so far we've paid $6,700 in interest, which is offset, right? There's a delta there because if we're earning interest on it, but still, and 4,000's been taken out of that for some planning and doing kind of the basic general plot plan of all of Jameson, which you would need even if you were to do Jameson 4. So we kind of got into a little bit of the weeds on that. And as far as our rec meeting, Paul and I have been on the last, would you say 2 meetings? Yes. 2 meetings. We're attending also the rec committee meetings. I did actually ask about minutes, since you had asked about minutes. Actually, as of today, there have been 4 minutes then submitted for this year. Did find out, though, that there haven't been minutes for all of 22, 23, and 24, so we're kind of figuring that out. And that is pretty much it. The tennis courts are slated to be done by June, they're hoping, of next year. And the irrigation project is still, in flux in terms of it's not quite done yet because of now the frost and whatnot. I will say that we asked about the robotic, I'm going to say RoboCops, the robotic mowers. They're not going to come from rec, but they are going to come from DPW. So we'll get a thing on that apparently from DPW. I think that pretty much covers it, Laura.
About the Jameson, because I thought that was interesting too about Jameson, right? So this is the one that town meeting approved like 100K for. It turns out that since then, they figured out that the configuration isn't ideal. I guess there's not enough room behind home plate to play softball. So it sounds like they have some reasonable reasons why they want to reconfigure things. But then I think they're still going through the process of how do they get all that approved and so on. So I think they're slow in spending that money because they have a new plan for how they want to reconfigure that. It sounds like as part of that, they wanted to understand what to be done about the 100K in terms of if they need more or less. Like, and the basic summary was you need to go back to town meeting.
Exactly.
But it sounds like they have, I thought, reasonable thoughts about how to go about reconfiguring things, but I think the process about how to make those changes and get approved and, the financials of it, I think they were, probably needed more guidance and help.
Right. And so the other thing is Dave Welch presented. The commission wasn't there last night. And also, like I said, tennis courts, pickleball, that, and anything else, Laura?
Vacation.
That's pretty much.
Did he have a sense of what the capital ask was other than for additional money for Jameson? Was there going to be any additional requests?
He was looking at an additional 100,000.
Other than Jameson,
Oh,
was there
okay,
any
no.
other requests?
Recall.
They had, really, that was mostly it. That was
Okay.
most of the discussion. I'm looking right here at the actual asks. It looked like assessing also, but we didn't have anything with assessing, as far as capital budget. And I think we're all caught up. That's what I was going to ask, or mention to Deb. We're mostly caught up on the 3 years worth of back invoicing.
Yes, yeah.
So that's been mostly, so they have kind of in an inordinate amount of money that's not usually there every year. So I think it's trying to tweak out, what's an average spend, what's an average profit, and what's the average expense. So we're kind of in the middle of trying to get some fiscal understanding of that.
Good.
Thank you.
Laura, anything? Thank you. Divya? George?
I have a question about like what we should be doing. What's our customary practice? Like,
When talking to the departments?
yeah,
So my experience has been, you will get the actual for fiscal 24 and 25, the budget for 26, and then what they're asking for budget for 27.
okay,
Generally speaking, we had recommended a payroll COLA of about 3.25%. And everything else in the budget to be flat. So if it's within those guidelines, the conversation could be fairly short. You can also talk to them about capital requests at that time, any special revenue funds they're getting, grants. You can ask about the status of those things. If those budgets are coming in substantially higher, I think we're asking departments to reconsider what they're presenting. We can see already tonight, the school side is probably at, they're at $1.2 million already, $1.15 million. I'm not sure that the budget can really absorb much more than $2 million at the most. So we have police at a 5.5% increase. We have the school on their version 1 at $1.15 million. So we have some hard thinking coming up.
and are they know that they meet with us, like they,
I think last year my experience was we reached out to make appointments via email. So if you need contact information, I think you could reach out to Deb and she can tell you who.
and where does it fit into Deb's process? Like you said, you're meeting with everybody. Like, is it duplicative of what you do, or is it?
It's not it's just a different aspect, if you will.
Yeah.
It's not really a
You're still
duplicate.
covering sort of the same thing.
Yes, absolutely. But you might be coming at it from a different angle than we are, just because, sometimes you're so close to it, you can't see the forest through the trees. So maybe when you look at it, you'll go, oh, geez, what's going on here, or whatever, but.
I think sometimes too, it's a little bit to help departments understand what they might be up against when they come present to the advisory committee. So being able to sort of represent our sort of point of view on it, like what Stephen was just saying, got $2 million that we can sort of, is a sort of how much we can deal with an increase, and we already know some of the big ticket items, so we're going to have to make some tough decisions. So it's helping them understand there's what they get in the guidance letter, and then there's a conversation that might help them sort of rejigger.
Yeah.
And I want to be sure that my comment isn't taken literally. I'm not sure what the increase can be.
Yeah.
But we're already working on preliminarily between police and the school substantial amounts. So.
Yeah.
Oh, I just want to get, I'm sorry,
Is it like informational for the upcoming meet? Like what is the purpose for it? Are we trying to, is it just part of this vetting process and so we don't get blindsided, or like what is our, what's
Yes,
the goal?
it's for us to get information. We're going to look at this globally, and then you may be able to go back and say to a department head, well, you may have some difficulty getting a favorable outcome with the advisory committee if you want to maintain your budget request.
Mhm.
So we are an oversight group. We don't make the decision. We make a recommendation. Town meeting is going to vote on it. Penny, do you want to add to that?
Well, just sort of your question, George. Relative to Deb, I think the other difference is we represent, and they're the same, the two bodies are the same, but we represent the end users of the services, and we represent the people who are paying for everything.
Yeah.
And so that's, as Laura said, our perspective is different, and that's, sort of the perspective I take to this.
Nora?
on a good note, I'm sorry, I think I mentioned it earlier, so sorry to put this on my report. We had mentioned the 623 for the tennis courts. The reason why there was a little bit of a delay is they were looking at other numbers, and there was a really low number, but they ended up passing on that one for, I guess, various reasons. So what I mentioned before, 458 now, 458,000, and there's 12,500 and some other ones. So that's nice that that's most likely going to come at or below, hopefully, what was approved, which is great.
So, George, to build on what you're asking,
Yeah.
what I tried to do this year was to have liaisons become expert in the particular category that they're working with. So we aggregated all the land use groups together. So when the liaison people are talking to those different departments, they get a big picture view of land use departments. Then we had the Public Works group, the Protection of Life and Property group. And so instead of having one liaison working with police and another one working with fire, we wanted to aggregate those broader categories together. So the liaison is the group of the people that the advisory committee is relying on to have gotten into the detail, so that the group of 9 doesn't have to get into the detail. That's the objective. And it's good. The other thing that we might add when we talk to departments is, what are your goals and objectives, and how do you measure success? I'm not sure that that's clear for a lot of departments. I think it's a longer conversation. We might not get that answer this year, but beginning to put it on the table and building the foundation for it, I think, is going to be helpful.
Yeah.
The other part too I would add, Stephen, I think it's helpful to sort of have them think about priorities. I know during the library discussion last year, I think they ended up with maybe other discussions with Laura and others around saying, come back to us with your ordered set of priorities. So also, if they have several asks, which are increases and so on, if they could think ahead of time about why they want to prioritize certain ones and which ones are important this year versus could be moved off to another year, I think that's also useful information for us.
And when you get a chance to look at the financial with policies that I sent out today, there is a policy that says you should not be increasing headcount. You should be using technology to help the staff be productive. And then there has to be some extraordinary reason to increase headcount. So that's not something that's coming from us as a group. It has been adopted by the select board as guidance.
That was in one of the attachments that you sent out. It was today or?
Yes, today. I think it was today.
Yeah,
was
a couple of
called-
days ago.
Yeah.
This week?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was very busy with email this week.
Yeah.
There was the fiscal guidance policies.
Okay.
Makes mention to that. I think that document could be helpful.
Yeah.
No, we're not unlike other towns running into levy limit constraints before Prop 2.5 requests come in. I think that Lexington just passed the $7 or $12 million override the other day.
Natick last year.
Natick did last
7
year.
million.
And because payroll makes up the majority of the budget, there's been pressure on over the last 3 or 4 years since COVID, during COVID and since COVID, to see payroll adjustments, and they're outpacing the rate that we can raise real estate taxes. So we just have to be careful and judicious and give proper feedback.
Do you see us going into a Prop 2.5 this year?
I think it's too early. No, we're going to try to avoid that. As a group, we're going to have to work hard together, both the department heads, select board, advisory, town, have some interesting decisions ahead of us. Jeremy, did you have anything to add if you're still there? All right. Does anybody else have anything to add tonight? Like to bring up? All right.
Thank you for sending all that.
You're welcome.
It's really helpful.
Good.
Yeah.
And that's a lot to absorb.
Yeah, no, it is, but it's really informative what you've sent out so far. Thank you.
And all that stuff can be found on the town's website. So it's the webmaster's been doing a good job posting information. So there's a lot there.
Yeah, but if you don't send it, we'll just assume it isn't important.
All right.
Thank you, Deb.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, thank
Hearing
you.
nothing else, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We are adjourned.
Yeah.